Batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Hey. What's happening? Hey, welcome to iHeart Intellect, the Chronicles of Ron. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell. Hey, y'all, I want to talk about two or three things, but I'm going to get back into what we're going to talk about tonight is where we left off last week was this thing about immigration and where we're at with this thing here, where we are at. But the one of the story that broke in the news um of just yesterday. I don't know how many people heard this story or even followed the story about this knucklehead who flipped out and stabbed six children, stabbed six children at a birthday party. Now the backstory is that this dude, he got put out of the complex, and apparently this complex is obviously an association, and the general nationality of these individuals are Sudanese and Somalians, and most of them from Northern Africa. But he gets mad because they put him out of the complex. He lived in the complex, and they put him out because of his violent behavior. Hence the term violent behavior. So what does he do? He comes back and attacks people at a birthday, attacks people at a birthday party. A birthday party. Okay. Who does that? You attack children at a birthday party. Subsequently, the 3-year-old, the birthday party that was being held for the 3-year-old, she died. So now this dude is charged with aggravated homicide and first degree murder, as rightfully he should be charged with. And at the same time, I hope he know he's going straight to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 because you're going straight to hell. But we're going to jump into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is going to be somewhat politicized. It's called political suicide. And we're going to get into the issue of immigration and the jackass Democrats and that crackhead Obama. Yes, I said that. I sure did, because he's an absolute jackass. Him and Michael running around town acting like they did everything for black people. No, they did not. So let's start with the immigration part. When we left off last week, it was an issue about what Donald Trump has is called a zero tolerance policy. Zero tolerance policy, meaning that if you cross the border illegally, meaning that if you swam across the river, meaning the Rio Grande, and there's a river, and for those who don't know, or as far as our geography is concerned, or those who are geographically challenged, there's a river that separates Mexico and the United States. It borders California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. That river called the Rio Grande. Now, what's going on is that we have a lot of, well, they say, immigrants that are crossing the river illegally. They are crossing into the United States illegally. Meaning, when you cross the Rio, if you're not crossing at a designated point of entry, meaning that you have to come through customs, you have to come through the gate and say why you are coming to America, or declare yourself, you're seeking asylum. But at the same time, you have to go through the process. You have to go through the process of this. Now, when some of them come across the river, they're swimming across, they're floating across via boats, inner tubes, whatever it may be, whatever. And their argument is, well, I'm here. I want to create a new life for me and my children. Now, here's the scary part. You have a lot of them that are crossing the border with children. And I mean children that are what they call tender age. And that means anywhere from 6 months upwards to 5, 7 years of age. And you're crossing this river. It's very dangerous in certain points. And you're crossing, and then at the same time, they have these individuals, who they call the ones that are bringing them in illegally, or they call them coyotes, that are transporting them or bringing them over. And these coyotes are being paid relatively good, not only by the nationals who are in Mexico, but Americans who are help transporting them from these illegal points, or if when they cross the river into other areas, to where then they begin to disband. Just so that you know that the phone lines are open right now. They are open they're open very early. They're open. So if you want to join in, chime in, or you have an opinion, give me a call here at the station at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. So when we're dealing with this situation about immigration, it is we want to act like that this is so bad. Certain individuals who are walking around now. Just this past weekend, they had protests in the country, throughout the country, protesting the zero tolerance. Here is the letter of the law, people. The letter of the law. If you cross over into the United States illegally, you will be prosecuted. And I want you to think about that for a moment. Earmark that for a second. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you and Joe Buck, you decide that you're going to sneak into China. You're going to decide you're going to sneak into Russia, Australia, Germany, Canada, any number of these countries decide you're going to sneak into. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to give you the what for, how come, and the what's happening, and the what's happening, and they're going to give you the what's happening. Meaning you're going to prison. No judge, no jury, you're going straight to prison. We're the only country that rewards breaking the law, that gives amnesty or rewards to people who break the law. The key thing is that the key word in this is illegal, meaning that it's against the law. Against the law. And the individuals who are really creating this fuss and the fight are the Democrats. And I say this all the time about the Democrats. And the unfortunate part, we as black people, we continue to be the proverbial jackasses in the room, following the carrot held on a string by somebody is riding us. And that's exactly, which creates the proverbial term, dumb animal. This is what a jackass is. This is what this is the if you in thinking back, like I said before, if you look at the Democratic mascot, it is a donkey, a jackass, a dumb animal that has to be led. This is the Democrats. Now remember, and just a sidebar, the Democrats were the same organization, the same political party that kept us in slavery, who fought to keep slavery in America. Hence the term Southern Democrat. We as black people, we continue to ride this horse of the Democrat. If you stop for a moment and look at where you live, look at certain parts of the city of Chicago, such as Inglewood, Roseland, Garfield Park, Austin. These are areas, or even here's one even better. Let me expand on that. Let me expand a little bit on that. Let's look at towns too. Let's look at cities like Dalton, Markham, Harvey, Robbins. These are cities that are primarily Democratic. Look at this community. Look at these towns and how bad they are being run, how bad the resources are being absorbed and sucked out. Look at how this is being done. And the reason we're saying, and you asked me, well, what does this have to do with immigration? It has everything to do with immigration because these are the same people who are putting you on the back burner and giving the immigrants what you should be having, what you should have, what you are entitled to as an American citizen. That's what this has to do. We have to wake up. We got to wake up and understand how this works. And at the same time, we have to stop allowing people to feed us particular things. And I say that, and for anybody that happens to live in the city of Chicago in the 34th ward, the alderman in that ward is Kerry Austin. Now, Kerry Austin has been the alderman for that community, for the 34th ward, that area, since when I was a teenager, and that was way back when. She got that position by default because her husband, he vapor locked at home and dropped dead, and she got appointed that spot. And that community has not grown since. It's actually has been any and all type of resources have been depleted. But this is the same woman who jumps on the bandwagon about the fairness that we should extend to illegals. Help me understand the concept of that. Help me understand how is that even remotely um, understandable or even fair. Let's talk about town. And since we addressed the portions of the city, let's talk about the surrounding communities, the towns. I left out Riverdale. Let's talk about these particular towns like Dalton, Robbins, Markham, Riverdale, that are primarily black. Okay. Um, Democratic process. But at the same time, these are some of the same people who are taking from you and giving to others. When we discuss immigration, this is something that has been a sticking point, a very touchy subject for the last 40, 50 years that no one wants to touch or address, primarily because a lot of the political individuals are hiring illegals and they have to answer to that. The key word is illegal. Right now, they're putting something together and they're trying to work a few things out. What happens is that now when these illegals come into the United States and if they're caught, they're automatically they're supposed to be prosecuted. And then at the same time, if they're caught with tender age children, and they wind up going into custody, what happens is that the adult is put in detention, an adult detention, while they wait for their case to circulate through the court process. And while that happens, the child or children are put in another facility. So that means that the child and the parent are separated for how long. Now, here's the thing. Call me wrong, say that I'm unsympathetic. Actually, yes, you can say that. I'm not wrong, and I'm unsympathetic to their problem or plight. Because here's the thing. If you are in a car and you have your 10-year-old, your 8-year-old, your 6-year-old, and your 4-year-old and your 5-month-old in the car while you go in and hold up a gas station, or you go at a gas station, you commit any crime, period. Let's just say gas station, you commit a crime. This is what happened. You go to jail and your children go into protective services, child services. The same principle with immigration. It's the same principle. You broke the law. What happens? We take your children away from you because we have to put them in a facility that is conducive for children. Now, what has happened is that you want to people looking at this, oh my goodness, this is so horrible, this is so hard, this is unfair. Well, here's the thing. Don't break the law. Don't come here illegally. Come through the proper channels. Do it the right way. And these things don't happen. But when you put yourself, and these people put themselves in this position for these things to happen. Now, just this past week, there was a woman who sued the United States government to get her son back. She came, here it is again. She came here illegally. She was taken into custody by ICE, which is, for those who don't know, ICE is the immigration's custom enforcement. Taken into custody. Her and her son were separated. She was put in detention. Her son was put here in a child facility here. Now, they are estimating that there are some 2,400 children that are separated from their parents. Whose fault is that? The question is, they're asking this thing, is this the parents' fault? Or is it the United States government's fault? How can it be the government's fault when they are enforcing the law? How could that be? How can that be? But it's these same Democrats who are running around, hopping on their soapboxes and the bandwagon, saying this is unfair. We have to put these people back together. We have to put the parents and the children back together. What happened to enforcing the law? Now remember, now let's go back and you can look this up. You can do a lot of fact checking. Some of the same politicians, such as the Maxine James Brown Waters and Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. These were some of the same people during the asshats administration, and I'm talking about Obama, that asshats administration, who were condemning, who were in support of stronger borders and prosecuting illegals. Key word, prosecuting illegals. But see, these were Democrats, because remember now, Democrats serve they serve one way, for themselves. They serve one purpose and one purpose only, themselves. They do not serve you. And once we how do I put this? Once we stop being niggas and wake up and realize that these people are our worst enemy, stop being stupid and realize that these people are not here to help us, we'll have a better idea. And then I've even heard people say that, well, what have the Republicans done? It's not about what they've done. See, this is us want to sidestep something and not take responsibility. It's not about what the Democrats are doing. If you remember now, the Democrats were the ones, and you have to, and once again, I implore you, look this up, do your own fact checking, do your own research. The Republicans were the one who wanted to abolish slavery, not because they like blacks. Make no mistake, they didn't want to do it because they like blacks or they thought that this was inhumane or unfair, whatever the case may be. No, this was for political and financial gain. But at the same time, there was a level of there's certain things that we have to stop. We have to change the way we move things, because you cannot continue to mask the horrors that were going on at the hands of the Democrats. It's the same thing that's going on right now. Just the other week, Maxine Waters, who is the congresswoman for California, whose district looks like a bombed out third world country. But she's a congresswoman who is supposed to be representing her constituents, but she's representing herself and working hard with the immigrants instead of people of her own, or color, I should say. She has stated that people should, and this is completely wrong, because this in itself is unsettling for a sitting congressperson to even say. Her words were to for people to harass Trump supporters, or if you see people from his administration, from his cabinet, from his office, to harass them. No, dummy, what you're doing is that you are inciting violence. So what happens after this? What happens after that is that once this got out, and then she said she had to kind of backtrack and sort of kind of had to change her schedule because she had to cancel a lot of things because she started getting serious threats, even some of very horrid nature, meaning death threats. There were people talking about killing this woman. But see, this is what happens when you have a loose dog in the room, meaning a Democrat. This is what happens. When we were discussing, I was discussing this situation, this thing with immigrants, about immigration, and the conversation, and it was so funny. I had to laugh at this. I had to laugh at this sea donkey when he said what he said was, well, what would Jesus have done? Jesus was an immigrant. I said, stop you right there. No, he was not. Jesus was a refugee. He left his land to go live in another land. But here's the thing. When Joseph, Mary, and Jesus left Bethlehem to go to Egypt, they came and they crossed over into this country the proper way. They abided by the law, or the law of the providence at that time, meaning that they came through the proper port of entry. And now, reversing that, when they left Egypt to return home, they did exactly the same thing. It wasn't Joseph and Mary and with baby Jesus, tucked in his back, tucked in, and they trying to cross a river or a mountain to get back in. They didn't do that. When they returned and they were asked who they were and what house were they from, he said, I am Joseph. This is my wife. This is my wife and my son. What house are you from? We are from the house of David. That is in keeping with the law of the land. And then Jesus went on, and Jesus referenced this later on in his ministry by saying, render under Caesar what is Caesar's, and render under God to what is God. Meaning we have to abide by the rules. No one is impervious to that. And we can't continue to bend the rules to we can't continue to circumvent the rules. We can't continue to bend the rules to for our benefit, or because it's convenient for us at that time. I had to look at him and I had to check, and I had to, put him in his place. No, Jesus was not an immigrant. Or what do you say? What would Jesus, and then the other thing is, well, what would Jesus have done in a situation like this? He would have told him, don't break the law. Simple. It has nothing to do with love and compassion. Don't break the law. When you break the law, have you ever known anything good to happen if you broke the law? I'll wait. Because if it has, it'll be the first time I've ever heard of it. This is what these people are doing. And what's happening is that the Democrats want to reward these people for breaking the law. There's a difference between amnesty and prosecution. When you grant someone, and if you're not familiar with the term amnesty means that that you are being forgiven for certain things. Hey, you guys came across the border. We're going to grant you amnesty, but what we want you to know, don't do it again. Don't go back over there and then come back the same way. You go back and you come back in through the proper channel. Don't do it. Or what we're going to do is that essentially we're going to wipe this away. How is that even remotely fair? Or let me strike that. How is that justice for people who have been here all their lives and who are still scratching, scraping, and clawing just to get just the smallest things. Do you realize that when immigrants come here, they are offered housing, they are offered financial assistance, meaning stamps and cash, they are offered job training or what they call vocational skills. They are, oh, wait. They are offered every resource that should go to an American. This is the thing that Trump is talking about. We have to stop this catch and release. And when they refer to catch and release, that means you catch them and then you let them go. You catch them, you send them back across the border, but then they come back. They come back. This is going to be a topic and a fine line on how we do this. How do you put these 2,400 children back with their parents? Here's the thing. Well, when this was enacted in the in with the 40 years ago, there was nothing that was put in place on how to do this. Nothing to put in place. Hey, welcome to the show, the Chronicles of Rohn. Who do I have on the phone and where are you calling from?
This is Jay from Georgia.
What's happening in Georgia?
All right, so let's jump into this immigration thing.
Yes,
first of all, there should not be, if you have any remote active neuron in your brain, no African American who especially is of natural born, meaning that you popped out of somebody on the soil of America or on one of its military provinces or installations. If you have an active neuron in that rock you call a skull, you should not even remotely have one word to say about in support of illegal immigration for three reasons. The first reason is illegal immigration uproots every bit of law and order that is supposed to protect you as a citizen. The same rules that you would not be able to break in any other country on the globe. There is a gentleman right now, he's an ex-football player or some athlete that got caught in a bar fight defending himself and has now been sentenced. He was defending himself, but because he was not a citizen of China, I believe, this man was sentenced to 4 years of hard, heavy labor in a Chinese prison. 4 years. No parole, no early release, no good time behavior. You will do it and you will like it.
And let me jump in. Yeah, hold your thought for a second. Now, for people, if you don't understand, when he says keyword, and correct me if I'm wrong, Georgia, when he says hard labor, this means that you are actually out there. You're not wandering around in the yard just picking up grass, mowing grass, things of that nature. No, you are sent to what they call a rock quarry, breaking rocks. That's what you're doing. You are doing serious manual labor. This is the idea of when they sentence you to hard labor, you're going to stay there until you either parole out, which almost never happens, or you die.
In most countries outside of the United States, parole is not an option. Let's be very clear. It is very, very rare that you are given parole and or good behavior in any sentencing that happens outside the United States. We're the only ones that have that sort of participation trophy. Let's be very clear about that. There was a girl who was sentenced in Italy for murder several years ago. She was supposed to get life, but because of new evidence, they exonerated and acquitted her. But had she not, she would have done every bit of that time forever. So I'm just trying to give us an understanding of how that works in other countries. This is not America. And one of the biggest delusions that we have in this country is that, well, I'm an American, so you can't touch me. No, jackass. You are an American outside of the borders and jurisdiction. Key term is jurisdiction that has governance. So please understand that. Here's the next point. Anytime an illegal immigrant comes here or is brought here, because let's not make the mistake that they always come. Some are brought here. And when I say brought here, I'm not talking about sponsorship or visas. That's part of the process. I am talking about some of your lawmakers, such as Nancy Pelosi, Maxine James Brown, Wildwig, Walters, Bernie Sanders. These are just several people, and including Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thought I'd throw that grenade in there. Arnold Schwarzenegger had an illegal lady in his house who he ended up having a child by. Let's be very clear about that. So immigration really is a very lucrative side business. But it does not benefit the common working man, which is much like the tax bill. I'm going to make a small comparison because we have to understand the distraction of what we're dealing with. See, as long as we can distract you with the issue of immigration, the issue of tax bills, things that are actually progressive and are getting done, then we don't have to make you think about the real things that are going on, which is you do not have any viable candidates in the Democratic Party. You do not even have a platform to run as a Democrat in this upcoming election. And furthermore, there is no platform. So the platform becomes distraction. The distraction is immigration. And the idiots that they use to bring this train into this blowing up station is black folks. Well, you guys were immigrants too. No, we were not immigrants. We were indentured servants who were captive involuntarily and were forced to do as much labor as we could until we died. And here's the funny thing, and this is pretty much my last point. Please make no exaggeration. Ask yourself this. When was the last time that you saw, or even you as a naturalized citizen in the United States, when was the last time that the government gave you $150,000 startup loan, a home, health insurance, food stamps, all of your subsidies covered, and then help you get a business in an opposing community? For the slow people in the room, let me put it a different way. When was the last time the federal government walked into Roseland or walked into Inglewood and found a disparaged, maybe highly bright academic kid or family and said, we're going to help you guys come up. So we're going to give you $100,000. We're going to put you in a store in Skokie or Lyle and help you get established. Here's $100,000, license a business. Hell, why not start a soul food restaurant in the middle of Little India or Little Korea? But we're going to help you succeed. When was the last time that happened? I'll wait. But you want to run down here and make a complete jackass of yourself. See, immigration only works when people look like Juan Valdez. But when they look like you
and I,
when they look like the cats from Roseland, when they look like the cats from Saudi Arabia, sometimes when they look like, excuse my French, the other side of the sand niggas, yeah, our borders are closed. So as long as you look like Juan Valdez and J-Lo, yes, come on over. We have plenty to do for you. But when their skin gets to be a little bit crunchy and a little bit toasty, our borders have a weird way of closing real quick. Think about that and ask yourself why that is. And then look at the people who are representing you, telling you that we need to be fair about immigration. Here's another thing. Have you noticed that since immigration came up, no one wants to talk about social injustice and law enforcement? That went the way of the dodo bird. You ever wonder why? Why is it that people like Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, John Brickhead Lewis, John Conyers, Elijah Cummings. I didn't even think that guy was still alive until I saw him make a jackass of himself last week. I didn't even think he was alive still. But it's amazing how they can get us to come out and parade again like aquatic jackasses when there's an agenda that fits a need that doesn't serve us. And we're supposed to rally around it and say, we shall overcome. And what do? We show up like church members and choir directors on cue in the circus. Think about that. That's my 2 minutes.
Oh, hey, you know what? We gonna take a break. We are gonna take a break on that because that was so much to absorb, and I hope you caught every word, every syllable. We're gonna take us a brief break on top of that. Hey, let me get a shout out to my sponsors. Hey, check out Captain Hooks if you really want some really good fish, chicken, and shrimp. Check them out at 85th and Cottage Grove in Chicago, 159th and Kedzie in Markham, and their new location that just opened yesterday at 103rd and King Drive. 103rd and King Drive. That's also in Chicago. Nubian Beauty of Hair. Check out their website at luxuryhairdirect.com/Nubian4. Give us a call here at the radio show at the station here, Chronicles of Rohn at 708-223-8953. We will be right back.
Now bounce. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. I feel like a superhero up in here. When it's spin, gotta hit him like new shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face. Gun up on my waist, booted and suited in them black case. I'm looking for some hood rats that I take to the back cave. Y'all lame like blank man, while I'm steady serving them like pistol on my utility belt like I keep my identity to myself like you don't want me to grab that thing from the shelf like I call them Robin, cause that's my only help, right? Okay. Girls hit my bat signal when they know that I'm coming. I say I ain't here for nothing, now give me that cat woman. As soon as we started stomach pumping, somebody had started thumping. She jumped up and caught her breath like, did you hear something? As soon as I get near to y'all, you want me to get into y'all. I ain't trying to tease them, play with your mind like the girl, I'm really feeling ya, but you're acting two-faced. Her body smell fresh, but her breath needs some toothpaste. Nah, I ain't even go play with her, I'm giving it to all the way straight. Wait, she said quit playing. What you think I'm a joker? About a money freaking. By the end of the night it's over. This girl will poison ivy, but I'ma have to give her a chance.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Ron. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, aka the Bad Man. Hey, when Georgia calls in, and much love to you, Jen, I hope you still listen. When Georgia calls in, he definitely gives us he really kicks it in and kicks the show up another gear. And the iconic thing for the show for Intellectual Radio is feed your brain. Feed your brain, and that is something that we have to start doing as Black people, not African Americans, but Black people in general. When he said, and just piggybacking off a couple of points that he said, the Democrats have an agenda, and guess what? It don't involve us. When your skin tone, when your skin color is like J-Lo, Juan Valdez, or any other Hispanic or anyone other Mexican, Hispanic, whatever, yes, welcome. But once you start talking about the skin tone that looks like mine, this nice brown, this nice luscious chocolate right here, or it gets even darker to where it starts to look like my glass, where it starts to get a little bit darker, a little bit crispy, a little bit crunchier. Yeah, the borders are closed. And when I'm referencing those individuals, we're talking about Sudanese, Somalians, Nairobians, people who are from the motherland where we come from, the motherland. The borders are closed. The borders are closed. And when you have these politicians that are on the bandwagon, that are fanning the flame, so to speak, fanning the flame, so to speak, on what is going on and what they're doing in the direction that we are going. We as a people should be outraged. We should be. And the sad part is that we're not. We accept this and we accept this. When he went on to say that, when was the last time you seen the government come in and, just to piggyback off of, come in and give you give a family whose children are up and coming, who are on the who's, you got the parents who are, you have a two-parent household, you have the children who are A students, and they're working their way through whatever. But when was the last time the government came into Inglewood and grabbed a family, or came into Austin, into Roseland, into Harvey, into Dalton, into Rob, and grabbed a family and say, hey, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you X amount of thousands of dollars to send your kids to school. Not only that, but we're going to give you all the subsidies and give you a business, give you startup loan business money to go with, so you can go and start your work and do your business in Skokie. You can do it in Evanston. You can do it in Barrington. You can do it in Naperville. You can do it in Joliet. You can do it in Country Club Hills. You can do it in Orland Park. You can do it in Tinley. You can do it in all these other communities. All of these. Hey, welcome to the show. iHeart Intellectual Radio, Chronicles of Rohn. Who do I have on the phone, and where are you calling from?
I'm sorry, this is Jay from Georgia. One more point.
Right.
When you got into it, please forgive me. I'll be very, very brief. The other part of this is the Supreme Court. Got to get this in.
Yeah.
Supreme Court. Their issue is so much more deeper than what we're being told. Yes, it is about immigration. But please know this. It has been stated, it has been very, very clearly mandated. Trump said this almost a year ago. I am going to set up this Supreme Court to be more solid and firm conservatively for the next 30 to 40 years. Now, I think people are very, very ignorant of what that means. Barack Obama, as a president and as an administration, weakened this nation on every front imaginable. The only safeguard he put in place was for pedophilia and transgender tolerance. That's the only thing he safeguarded. Please make no mistake about it. Here's the last point. Look this up, and if I'm wrong, please call me out, but I'll wait. The last thing is, when we talk about this whole thing of immigration and illegal immigration, we as a black people, or as a people of color, we lost two of the greatest minds that we could have ever imagined. And we've never been quite capable of understanding what they were trying to tell us in the subliminal code that the media sanitized. Martin Luther King, one of his last speeches at a conference for equal equality, or the core of equality, was telling his group of small members, if you remember, he was killed. This had nothing to do with civil rights. His last campaign was called the Poor People's Campaign.
Poor People's Campaign.
Poor People's Campaign. Because he, in several interviews prior to that, said that we are trying to integrate into a burning house. He said that. Look it up. Do something that you don't do on your phone. Find some research and find something that's actually factual. He said we are into a burning house 60 years ago. Here's the other point. He also said that the federal government, and please make no mistake about it, this, and along with his stance against Vietnam, had nothing to do with him not being patriotic. His point against Vietnam and his point against anything that he said in the last 6 months of his life was this: America has sold us a bad bill of goods. They promised us freedom. They promised us equality. Yet they went and migrated almost an entire county of Irish and Polish immigrants brought them here, subsidized the land, financed and mechanized the colleges, gave those people land grants, gave them every benefit as immigrants, gave them every benefit and the land, the training, the equipment at zero interest loans to help these people become successful and solidified as a community while they're telling you, hey man, equality's out there. You just got to go get it. And his statement was, that's a lie, because you're doing all of this for these people, and then you're telling us to get up and pull ourselves by our own bootstraps.
Right.
Those are the things that got him killed. And that's what I mean when I say they said it, which is why immigration has completely keeps coming around circle, because every time immigration gets in front, you as an African American gets pushed to the back of the bus, fool. Excuse my French, but I had to make sure that that was put.
I'll hold you. I want to add. That was it. You sometimes you don't know what to say when the truth sits right in front of you. You just have to look at it, and there's two things that happen. You're either going to accept what's being told to you or not. But the idea is that the information, and like he said, instead of sitting on your phone looking up stupid stuff, start looking up the things that we're talking about and fact finding and checking these things out. This is one of the things that we have been discussing that we for over 50 years. And when he referenced Martin Luther King, because everything changed, it was no longer about equality. It was about, like he said, he began the Poor People's Campaign because, as he said, the United States sold us a bad bag of goods. And they've been doing that, and the key and to continue that. Think about who so the storekeeper who keeps selling us these bad bag of goods. You're a Democrat. The Democrats. They're the storekeepers, and we are the proverbial jackasses who keeps going into the same store, buying the same thing, thinking it's going to change. No, these eggs are good. It's just, no, but they're too broken. No, it just looks like they're broken. And the unfortunate part is that some of us are convinced, they've convinced us that this is okay. Well, I want a dozen eggs. Well, four, four is just as good as six. You just have to take the broken ones and kind of finagle it. And unfortunately, some of us are stupid enough to believe this, and we purchase half. We don't even we purchase 4 eggs instead of 6, or we wind up purchasing 6 eggs instead of the full dozen when they're 2 are broken and 4 are rotten. But they've convinced us that this is okay. They've convinced us. See, when Malcolm X and this swings around to the immigration, Malcolm X says, when you have a mind that accepts everything that is told, that is a disease. That we have a disease mind because we refuse to look at the truth for what it is. Each and every time immigration comes up, we are pushed to the back. When Trump, and I remember him saying this when Trump first ran, and he stated he's going to set the Supreme Court to become more conservative, and he's going to set it for the next 50, 60 years, which he is doing. Not to mention, he's already got his first pick. This guy will be the first sitting president to have 2 picks for the Supreme Court in the last 70 years. The first sitting president to have the opportunity to pick 2 justices to set the Supreme Court. Once this happens, watch out. Because when the next person who he appoints or selects is going to be a conservative, but this is going to be a person who is going to, and just a sidebar, during a meeting, the reporters were asking the press secretary, who happened to be, her name is Sarah Huckabee, and they were asking her about the president's pick when it concerns Roe versus Wade. Now, for those who and I don't want to get too much into that, but look this up. Roe versus Wade was the landmark case that made abortion illegal. I mean, it made abortion legal. Made abortion legal. Now, what we have here is that the question is constantly asked to the president: are you going to appoint a justice who is going to overturn Roe versus Wade? Sarah Huckabee's response, which is a very intelligent response, is that the president is not going to address that question. He is going to appoint someone who is going to administer the law the way it was written. He is going to enforce the law. He is going to interpret the law the way it was written. That's the end of that conversation. See, but the backstory, and people have to pay attention. The backstory is that it doesn't matter who he appoints. That judge, he can change his mind. He could sit here and say all day long, hey, I'm pro-choice. I'm not going to overturn it. A year from now, he could say, no, I'm going to overturn it. So it doesn't matter on whether the guy is pro-life or whether he's for it or against it. At the end of the day, he's got to be the one to make the decision, along with the other 8 justices. Along with the other 8. There are 9 justices that sit on the Supreme Court, and the reason why it's not that is to prevent a deadlock. You're always going to have one above the other. And what happens is that if you have 6 conservative judges and 3 liberals, that pretty much sets the tone for different things subject to be brought back up or overturned, such as Roe versus Wade, such as gay marriages, and a few other things that people do not agree with. And make no mistake, these particular things are going to come back up, and you're going to have certain justices. You're going to have justices that are going to, so to speak, in their minds, right this ship that Obama has torpedoed from the inside. And like Georgia said, Obama safeguarded 2 things. He safeguarded gay rights and pedophilia. He safeguarded those 2 things. Nothing about civil rights, nothing about voters' rights, nothing about people of color. Nothing. But we have here, moving to the immigration part, everybody, once again, this goes back to your Democrats who did not. And then I hear this all the time when people say, well, they didn't let Obama do this, they didn't let Obama do that. That's a lot of garbage. That's a lot. Because you have the same scenario where it's called putting pen to paper. It's called executive order. All he had to do was sign his name on the executive order to safeguard certain things that were designed for Black people of color. He did not do that. But now we're to the point where we're discussing this thing about immigration, and these are people who, first of all, aren't even supposed to be here or who are not citizens. Help me understand that. And Trump comes in and he made it clear, we have to purge this country of people who should not be here. We have to abide by the law, even though the law may be flawed. It's the only law that we have, and that's all that we can go off. But if you have individuals who are going to enforce the Constitution, and even though portions of the Constitution was not designed to include us, we still have rights, because as citizens we are afforded due process. Now, if you are an illegal, you come here illegally, they want to say there's a form of due process, but you're not a citizen, so you're not entitled to due process. You're not entitled to that. None. But unfortunately, the liberal Democrats are trying to push this through. So once Trump decides, or he decides to appoint, there's a process. He has to go, the president appoints, then there's a process where he has to go to the Senate Judiciary Committee, to where they will grill this individual about particular things and particular things. They're going to dig, so they're going to crawl, they're going to shine a microscope up his ass to see any and everything that he might have said, did, or done. But that's part of the process. Then once he's confirmed, then it goes to the full Senate to confirm his appointment. Then after the Senate confirms him, then he's sworn in by the vice president. Should all of that happen. Now, the confirmation is very simply put, is that the Senate, the Senate has to vote. It doesn't have to be unanimous, but they have to have a majority vote. Now, right now, there was once a point to where you needed 60 votes in order for something to pass. You don't need that now. All you need is what they call a majority, anywhere between 51 and 55, which is a majority. What the Republicans cannot afford is for any of the Republicans to defect to the Democrats. But it would be beneficial for some of the Democrats to defect to the other side of the aisle. The idea is to set this particular thing, set the courts to where you have certain things you have to write. You have to, and you cannot do it when you have a bunch of loose dogs and a bunch of jackasses running around the Senate, running around the House, and running around Congress saying this is what we want to do, and acting like a bunch of crybabies that didn't get a lollipop at the dentist's office. This has to come to an end, and at some point or another, this thing with immigration will come to an end. Will come to an end at some point or another. At some point. But you know what, y'all? We can go on and on and on about this immigration thing, but the point being is that we have to fully understand, where do we fit in this? Because this is just all smoke and mirrors to hide the bigger issue of what is not happening with us. The civil rights are not being addressed. Social injustice is not being addressed. Police brutality in the country towards Black people is not being addressed. But everybody's so up in arms about a bunch of Mexicans and Hispanics crossing the river, getting here and being here illegally, and so now we have to have some form of sympathy and compassion for them. No, I don't. You shouldn't, because is anyone having any of that for you? For those who are trying to put their kids through school, for those people who are sitting up late at night trying to fill out college scholarship paperwork, or you're trying to figure out how you can fudge the numbers to say you make more money so you can get the additional funds to send your kid or kids to school, or you got to cheat the numbers. But here you got J-Lo lookalikes and Don Juan's coming over here, and they're getting all of that money that should go to your son or daughter. They're getting all of that money that should go to your father, to your mother, or to the husband and wife, so they can build a business, so they can put their kids to school. This is the thing that is not. This is the things that, once again, I go back, that Obama did not help us with. And anybody that continues to ride on this dirty knucklehead's coattail, shame on you, because we once again have been pushed to the back of the bus. Pushed to the back of the bus. We got some point or another. We got to say enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I'm and right now, this is where we're gonna end our show here at iRock. Listen to me, at iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. The Chronicles of Rohn. Hey, go check out Captain Hook at 85th for great chicken, fish, and shrimp at 85th and Cottage Grove in Chicago, 103rd and King Drive in Chicago, and 159th and Kedzie in Markham. It's my sponsors, Nubian Beauty of Hair. Go to their website. Check out their fabulous products. luxuryhairdirect.com//Nubian4 Nubian4. Remember, put the dot at the end of that 4. And in closing, not my monkey, not my circus. Check y'all out next week.
Shoot it in them black case. I'm looking for some hood rats that I take to the back cave. Y'all lame like blank man, while I'm steady serving them like pistol on my utility belt. Like, yeah, I keep my identity to myself. Like, you don't want me to grab that thing from the shelf. Like, I call them robbing. It's my only help, right?